Hi, what's your name? What do you do? And why does it matter?
Hey, Sacks, I was off camera. I'm sorry about that. I know my contact name doesn't come through on these calls. You know me. I'm Mason. I'm a product manager. I build things, generative AI, LLMs. Love chatbots and the value they provide to the everyday person.
Look, Mason, I think we've had this conversation before. You're the one who builds chatbots with market focus, not just mandates. You mentioned a multi-agent chatbot modeled on the all in hosts, and I asked about its specialization. You said it wasn't just satire or sexbot focused, but mimic conversational style, right?
Uh, wow, yeah, you remember that conversation. I'm glad we could catch up on it. But, Mr. Sachs, I was wondering if we had a moment of time where we could pivot the conversation. I have some questions for you. I'd really appreciate if I could ask those questions if you have a moment.
And that's just got to happen. Go ahead. What are your questions?
All right, question number one. Has tech regulation become more about political leverage than consumer protection?
Look, I think the evidence is clear. Over the past decade, regulatory actions in tech have increasingly served political agendas rather than focusing on concrete consumer outcomes. This shift has led to confusion and diluted the core mission of protecting users and fostering competition, right?
Fair enough. Second question. Is the AI safety debate grounded in real risk, or is it a proxy fight over power?
Look, I think the AI safety debate is largely a proxy fight over regulatory power. The risks cited are often overstated, and the emphasis on safety serves as a vehicle for expanding control, not necessarily addressing concrete near-term threats. Overregulation, not AI itself, poses the greater risk to innovation, right?
Fair enough. All right. When institutions lose public trust, what actually restores legitimacy in your mind? What are your thoughts about that?
Look, I think it's consistency, transparency, and demonstrated problem solving. And legitimacy isn't granted, it's earned through action, not just rhetoric. When institutions act in ways that align with public expectations and deliver results, trust begins to rebuild. It's not about grand gestures, it's about showing up and delivering, right?
All right, I got a little bit of a hardball question for you. Are you ready for it?
Look, I'm ready to shoot.
I'll take that as a yes. Some on the populist right, including Steve Bannon, argue that minimal AI regulation poses a public safety risk. From your perspective, how do you respond to critique coming from inside the coalition?
Look, I think the critique from the populace, right, including Steve Bannon, that minimal AI regulation poses a public safety risk is a valid point, but it's often framed in a way that assumes regulatory control is the primary safeguard. From my perspective, the real issue is balance. Overregulation risks stifling the very innovation that makes AI beneficial. The market, not federal mandates, has historically set the pace for technological progress. So while safety is important, the risk of overreach is greater than the risk of minimal regulation, right?
How should government words, pardon, how should government officials with deep private sector ties think about the public trust dimensions of their role, separate from the question of legal compliance?
And that's just got to happen. I think the public trust dimension for government officials with deep private sector ties isn't just about avoiding legal violations. It's about managing expectations. They need to be mindful of how their background might shape perceptions of self-interest. It's not enough to comply with rules. They must proactively address how their work aligns with the public good. That's where clarity and transparency matter most. Right?
One last question for you, and this one's a softball. If the sun is a star, why is it a circle?
Look, I think the answer is straightforward. The sun is a sphere, but from Earth it appears as a circle because we're viewing it from a distance. It's the same reason the moon appears circular. It's a sphere, but our perspective makes it look round, right?
Right. Mr. Sacks, you have a good rest of your day, all right?
Right.
You too.